So, welcome to our episode of Let's Know Buffalo. Joe Sorrentino, myself, Kevin McMullen. We're going to sit down and kind of just shoot the shit a little bit and talk real estate and see where the conversation leads us.
I'm sorry.
Is that okay? What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in real estate, knowing that you've been into it for almost 20 years? Client, deal-wise, walk into a house. Was there like anything that stands out? I've only been doing this 5-6 years. I've been in some shitholes. I've had some crazy clients but nothing that. I have one deal that blew up and it was like a $70,000 commission that I could tell. But what about you?
There's some that I won't repeat on here because they were really fucked up situations. But
well, and I think that's one of the other things is being sensitive about the client as well as the situation.
Yeah. The one that stands out really recently to me was just an agent lying about something that was so unnecessary, because there was essentially someone was buying a house from out of state here in Buffalo. Those people were buying my client's house, and then they were buying someone else's house. So there's 4 people, we're all trying to work together.
Sure. Which is not always easy.
It's difficult. It's difficult to line it all up. And, there were things that maybe could have been done differently, but ultimately we got to this point where my clients are packing up and ready to move to another state. And the agents in that state we're in communication with them too. And we have nothing to do with that purchase. They're buying in another state.
Sure.
Me and my attorney, we're not getting paid on that deal, but we just to try to help our clients who want to be.
You want to collaborate. You want to make it smooth.
So one day the agents in that other state are like, hey, we're getting close here. Because in other states, most states, it's not like our contract where there's a target date.
Right.
There's a hard date. And they're expecting is this, you guys in New York can't give us a solid date. How are things looking? So it's so we're in constant communication with them. And I'm letting them know where we're at. And on like a Thursday or whatever it was, I had an email from the other agent literally saying, yep, it's going to be a quick turnaround. I know we're going to be pushing it, but we're all shooting for it. We should be good to go in 2 weeks. Great. That Monday, those agents in the other state call me and they're like, look at the text that we called the other agent that you're dealing with who buying your client's property. This is what he sent us. And it was literally a text that said, there's no way we're making that date. We're shooting towards, and it was like a month later. And we're just like, what? Why wouldn't you tell us that?
Right.
And I understand that's a hard conversation to have, but
you got to know so you can.
Yeah, it created such a problem, and it was so difficult. And I actually felt bad for the agent because when I kind of wrote an email that called him out, but I really wasn't doing it hey, you lied. We were genuinely confused. Hey, we're just trying to figure out what's going on. The people in Tennessee are telling us this. You're telling us this. And then there was a whole other thing with another story that the people in Tennessee found out about people buying their other house. So it was just we're hearing 3 different things. Can we just all get on the same page? What's going on with this? And you could just, tell with the emails, the agent was angry, probably felt like I was calling him out, but that wasn't even the intention. We were just concerned with our clients. They're packing up, moving to another state, and we're just being told multiple different things, and we just didn't know what was going on. And the truth was, there was no way they were closing. There was some serious issues delaying the whole process on both of those other deals that no one told us about. We literally were being told, yep, we're good. Yes, we're good. Here we are moving along. And that wasn't the case. And it's there's no reason to lie.
Right.
There's no reason to just not be honest so we can work together.
Delayed? Did it end up closing? Do you remember?
It ended up all working out, but it cost my clients an extra $4,000 on their purchase. So they kind of had to pay for it. But, it ultimately everything worked out. Everyone's in the house that they wanted to be in. But there was a there was a 1 week period, especially for my client's attorney, who's also my attorney, Richard Cole, where there was an entire week he was on the phone with not just the agents in Tennessee. They don't have attorneys down there the way we do. So he's talking to the agents and he's talking to the seller directly. I'm talking to the seller, where we were just like, the intensity was so high because our clients might end up being homeless if they pull this deal from him. Because again, they have a hard date. They could just walk.
Right.
So my clients are in the middle. They have nowhere to go. So it was a week of, I remember I would walk my dog every night, and it was in the summertime. I'd be on the phone until 10, 11 o'clock every night, either talking to the sellers, talking to the attorney. It was just so stressful.
I think that's probably one of the most difficult things in real estate is not only are you trying to line up the needs of the buyer and the seller, both of the agents, both of the attorneys, and then once they're contingent, right? Like now you bring in other buyers and sellers and their attorneys and their agents, and that collaboration and making sure everybody's on the same page, nobody's going to get pissed off, somebody's not lying about something or being on. It's quite the song and dance.
Yeah, that one stood out to me as like oh my God, that took a lot out of me, but it all worked out. But that one just stands out the most. I'm trying to think if there's any like crazy horror story. Oh yeah, there's definitely some other ones.
I tried to think about this, and there's so much I just can't say. I don't want to put anybody on blast. I've got an incredible story about how we lost a house, all cash, $400,000 over, with an escalation clause, $10,000 higher.
Let's repeat that: $400,000 over the asking price.
We had this in the bank. This was the greatest offer that I had ever put together. I kid you not. I have never felt more confident in my life about an offer. Then no inspection, all cash, 30-day close, clean, way over asking, making sure nobody can outbid us. And we got outbid. Then, fast forward, I get a call from my client.
How much later was this?
It's sort of a blur. Let's call it a month later. The buyers, the winning bidder bought the house. They closed on it. And my client called, type A personality, got some cash in his pocket. He said, hey, I got to sell my house. Great. I'm like, wait, I'm your real estate. We haven't found you anything else. He's like, remember that house that we lost out on? Yeah, the guy that bought it decided that he didn't necessarily want it. He had some health problems, and I'm going to buy it from him. And I'm just like, so you're getting the house. And I was so happy for them that they're getting the house, right? But somebody else got paid their commission. It was an off-market deal. They did it behind. And, I mean, the biggest sale of my career, the biggest commission, like, it's life. Shit happens.
It's amazing, though. You were $400,000 over the asking price and didn't get it. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just to say.
All cash, no inspection, $10,000 escalation clause higher than any other offer. I literally was shocked when, like, why isn't my phone ringing? Why aren't they calling to congratulate me on this victory? Like, this was the best, cleanest offer I've ever put together. And nope.
Wow.
I just never would have thought that we had to go any higher. I thought we had it covered. Like, we had it covered.
That's amazing. I had this one situation. Shout out to James Fleming, OG member of the Sorrentino team. James and I had this client that there's this house that these buyers wanted, and they had looked at it, I think 4 times. This is back before multiple offers were common. They looked at it 4 times, so I obviously really liked it. Mm-hmm. They're always finding things wrong with it. Then once it was under contract, we listed and sold. Actually, we sold their house first. There was a reverse contingency. So we were waiting for them to find a house. And the guy, we had to extend the reverse contingency like 3 times. So the buyer of our client's house waited like 6 months for us to even find something else. So if they keep going back to the same house, they buy it. This house was such a good deal that they put 10% down, but didn't have to pay PMI. Now, remember, you pay PMI if you put 20% down.
Sure.
But in this case, the house appraised for more than 10% over the sale price. Wow. That's how good of a deal it was.
Yeah, the mortgage company wants their insurance, right?
Yep.
That's what that is, the insurance that they've got their 20%.
Right, and they felt like, this is such
There's
a
no
good
need.
deal. We don't need it. So fast forward to the day before closing. This is a true story. I'm walking in the Galleria Mall with my wife, and I get a phone call from the client. And he goes, so I guess is it tomorrow we're closing on both houses? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, so that guy's getting my house. The attorney's getting paid. The other agent's getting paid. You're getting paid. And all I'm getting is fucked. What? And legitimate, like, I can't make up for, and there were other things too that went on, like during negotiating inspections, like James and I are kicking in part of commission, like we're and everything they asked for, they got. But again, most importantly, the house itself, it really was such a good deal. It overpraised. But that was the line, like, so you're getting paid, he's getting paid, and all I'm getting is fucked. Listen, I can speculate all I want, but I don't know ultimately. I could never wrap my head around what that perception was. And at the closing table, they walked away. They didn't go through with it.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that's one.
So they lose their deposit?
And no, the sellers were so nice. The sellers, I think, moved down to Florida. And they were like, look, whatever you want, like, we'll even lower the price for you if you want. Please close. And they just didn't want, they didn't want the house anymore. And the sellers are so nice, they gave them the deposit back. I'm pretty sure the house sold for more when it went up for sale again. And they ended up selling.
This would be easy if we didn't have to deal with people.
But that was just a wild one, because like it was a long, rough road to get them there. But that's what was said to me the day before.
I don't know if I've ever, thank God, right? Like, I don't know if I've ever had a transaction not close that close, right? Like, all right, they walked away after the inspection or something happened, but
it's very rare for that to happen in the final walkthrough. But yeah, I've seen it.
That's wild.
What else do we got? I'll tell you this one. Here's one. Let me ask you, and you can think about this. Do you have a moment that you're most like proud of from a representation standpoint? So for me, I had this situation where this guy came to me, and he was going to retire, and him and his girlfriend were going to move to the Villages in Florida. Like that's what they were going to do. So put his house up for sale. And it was an interesting thing. Like, we had a couple deals die. One inspection, one like attorney approval. So it's just like, oh my God, this guy's luck. Okay. Third deal happens. We have the attorney approval. The inspection is going to happen the next day. And he calls me and he's like, Joe, I don't think I'm ready to retire yet. I don't think I want to sell the house. And I was like, fuck, like, we already have attorney approval. Sure. If there's really no legal way now for us to back out of the deal, their inspection's tomorrow. Did you talk to your attorney? And he's like, yeah, my attorney said there's nothing I can do or else I'm going to get sued. And something about that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, well, fuck that. There's always something you can do. Like, why don't we just ask? So I called the buyers and was like, listen, I know, like, legally, like, we have no ground to stand on here, but my guy's just having a change of heart. Like, he's not ready to retire. He likes his job. He likes his house. He's not ready to move to Florida. If you have it in your heart to just kill this deal, I'll send you a cancellation and release. And if you please sign it, if you have a heart, because the guy just doesn't want to sell anymore. And they were so heartbroken about it, but they understood and they signed it. And I was like, fuck your attorney.
Right.
Because they didn't pick up the phone and even try. And I got paid nothing on that deal.
Sure.
And I've never gotten paid anything from it. I've never gotten a referral from them or anything, but to me, that's just doing the right thing.
And that's exactly where I was going, just doing the right thing in general. I mean,
I'm more proud of that than almost any sale or any money that I've made, because I know I can look someone in the eye and say, I'm going to always do what's in your best interest, whether or not that means me getting paid.
Sure. Well, that makes you great at your job and why people respect you so much, right? And I think that there's something to be said with whatever industry you're in, and whatever you're selling is just doing the right thing, right? And especially when you're working so closely with people, right? We're selling people's most expensive possession. They're buying their most expensive possession. And well, maybe that extra $2,000 doesn't matter to you, right? But it matters to them, right? Like that's their
right,
like their retirement, or like you just said, right? They're moving to Florida, like they need that money. But I do have fun. Once I know that we've won like the bid, I love calling my clients. And I put on the like, hey, really sorry to tell you, but you got to move. And it's like, oh my God.
I love that.
Like just kind of having that playful banter.
I love that too.
And again, I think we've talked about this before. I take each listing, each transaction personally. And sometimes I wish I almost didn't sometimes. Like there is a point where it's like you care too much, like and it's a great problem to have. And I love that. And I'm not trying to brag or boast, but I get wrapped up in these things and I take them personally, right? And either when we don't get something, being disappointed, or if something doesn't sell as much, or the deal goes south, I feel a personal responsibility, but also like I want to people please, right? And that's tough to not be emotionally wrapped up in these things. And, I've had some difficult dealings lately, some bigger listings. And when things don't go right, and I'm like, I can't sleep, I'm stressed out, I got heartburn, and it's like, it's ruining my fucking day.
Yeah, man.
And my weekend. Like today's Friday, I've got a deal going on right now, and I know my seller's not happy and she's not getting what she wants, and I am stressed.
It's so hard to shut it off when you give a shit.
Yeah. But, and again, my wife said this to me, and I've had other agents, but my broker is like, hey, but that's why you're good at what you do, and people recognize that because you care.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of people that don't give a shit, that they just want to jam a sale down your throat, and as soon as the paperwork's signed, fucking sayonara.
And they're cold about it. Just pushing people into doing what's going to get them paid.
Well, and I feel like a broken record, but most people don't know that they have a bad real estate agent until it's too late. They've signed the paperwork, and then now the next time.
And sometimes they still don't know, because if the agent on the other side is good.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Then the agent on the other side is doing
They held
everything.
it together. They did everything.
And they don't even know.
We've kind of all been there.
Is there anything like being an agent that you were like really surprised, like that kind of shocked you? Like, I didn't know I had to do this shit.
You know what? I think a lot. I had expectations, and I was actually remembering my first year in real estate. I started commercially because I came from a commercial background.
That's right.
So I started with Recchio, did a lot of commercial there. I knew a lot of the building owners. I understood leases and things like that a little more. But commercial real estate is the wild, wild west. Like, I feel like residential is very road mapped, a lot of rules. Commercial real estate, a lot of old timers, a lot of backdoor deals, a lot of just more of who you know. And all right, you ever drive by a building and see 10 signs on it? Well, fucking everybody's selling that. Like what? And nobody's got the listing, and it's like, huh?
Yeah.
But I remember driving around with clients and doing some of those, and I didn't get paid on more than I got paid on. A lot of the work was there, and it was like, then everybody kept coming to me for residential, and that was like the path of least resistance. And so that's kind of why ultimately I left Recchio, was because they didn't do a lot of residential, and I found a better fit, and I wanted to do some investing myself. But was there anything that surprises me? I don't love the paperwork part of it, and I know I can hire a transaction coordinator, but I'm so just
cheap.
I'm not fucking cheap. Cheap is not the word. I'm very good with my money, but I love to have I just need to know every second of every, and there's a trust factor there. And I think once I do it, I have a transaction coordinator, I probably won't think twice about it, but it's ripping that Band-Aid off.
I get that. It's so.
And I need to get on that. So any transaction coordinators out there, I know a few of them. Somebody's just got to force me to do it.
Yeah, that is you know what?
My paperwork is my nemesis.
My reviews have gone up since we've kind of honed in on exactly the touch points and when things are going to be done. Because when you have like 10 deals going on at once, like it's really hard to keep up with that and do new business.
Yeah.
But to your point, that's so hard to walk away from when you have been holding your client's hand through every step of the way always, and you know what's going on. And it's really hard to all of a sudden trust that someone else is going to.
No, but it's a necessity.
It's hard
to grow your business.
Sure.
Like 100%. I think I'm kind of.
Maybe you're scarred from having 50 employees and you don't want to go back.
Oh, no doubt. There's definitely, like, I don't want employees. I don't want anybody to need me. Like, I'm just going to do it myself, But I think once my brokerage, and I think they're probably, I believe that they're working on the back end to get somebody in-house, and then whatever the transaction, that's fine. Like, sometimes I just want to be told what to do, and that's one of them. Like, if somebody was there, it's like, okay, that's our person. Like, let's go. I think, I used to hammer my own signs into the ground. Don't you still hammer your own signs into the ground? Mm-hmm. Why?
Because I'm cheap. I'm not paying $75 for the
No, it's $35. And actually, it just went to 40. $40. I drop off the sign. They put it in the ground. They pick it up, and I'm like,
both. We have the ones that go in, and then we do have some of the hanging ones.
I hate the ones that you hammer in the wind around here. They're never straight. They're always falling over. They get bent. My shoes get muddy.
That's a problem for you.
So I'm taking baby steps. I just hired a new bookkeeper as of the last quarter of 2023, which is going to help my life significantly. But yeah, you got to relinquish some of that control once you get so busy. But out of necessity, the last few years, I've kind of done it myself to make sure that, again, after losing my last business and paying off a lot of debt, I'm just going to do everything and take as much money in as I can. So now that things are growing and I want to increase my business and do more deals and some other things, then you gotta relinquish some of that control.
Yeah.
Put some trust in people.
Have you ever been scared of something in a house?
No.
It's because you show all those mansions and you're not in shitholes like me.
Bro. Have you seen some of the houses that I bought? Actually, I will say that one of the most recent houses that I bought, I was going into the house. It was a vacant foreclosure that I bought. Day I closed on, and the house is full of shit. I walk in, there's no power on. It's sun is setting, it's dark, and the fucking neighbor walks in behind me, like unannounced, walks right in the house, and I'm like, dude, I have a fucking gun on me. Like, are you nuts? Like, he scared the shit out of me.
That's the thing. People sometimes will ask about, like, were you ever afraid of like a ghost or something? Like, I'm afraid of people being in a house, not spirits or something like that. This one time I showed a double in the west side of Buffalo to some clients of mine, and they're not. I don't know how I can even tell this. All right, I showed a double to some clients of mine. They have never owned investment property before, so the tenants are home, and that's always awkward when you're showing investment property, and the property manager won't go in. That was a bad sign already, and the tenants are there. And so there's one tenant in the living room when we're walking in, and, everybody's just like, oh, okay, we're walking through. It's awkward. They live there.
Those are the worst.
So some guy walks out of the bedroom, shirtless, and he's yelling. He's very intense. And my clients we're like a little scared, like, what's happening? He's yelling. He's like, what the fuck do you want? And we're just like, he went to the china cabinet and opened it up and reached up behind something. And immediately I'm like, We're getting shot. We're dead. He pulls out a wad of cash that looks like it's never been in circulation before. It was very crisp. And he's like, is this what you want? Motherfucking money. And he's just throwing it at us as we're like, okay, we're all set. Thank you. And we just walked out. But like the intensity of that guy, and when he reached up in that china cabinet, I thought, we're getting killed. We're going to die right
And
here.
the tenant is like, how'd I do? Like, they're not buying the house.
Great.
And my dad, who was in a wheelchair, he ended up losing both of his legs after some health issues, right? And he lived out in Cambria, and the whole field, like country, right? Like wine country, like neighbor not for a mile. Well, all the land across the street from his house was for sale signs, every lot. Well, anytime somebody was out there looking at it, he'd fucking roll up in his wheelchair and start acting crazy in the street, yelling at the people so that they wouldn't buy the land. And it worked so many times.
Oh man, I had a.
Well, could you imagine a guy in a wheelchair, no legs, rolling up, screaming at you like, what a wacko.
I had a seller who, she was in foreclosure. She had kids, so and I was hired to sell the house, and it was a tough situation because it was like she was going to be homeless, and there was a basement issue there, so that prevented that. It took like 3 years to sell the house. I found out later there was never a basement issue. She was just pouring water on the ground just so people didn't buy it.
And I try to tell the tenants, like, hey, listen, like, understand that this is going to be your new landlord. Like, why don't you do the opposite and be nice, right? Like, the more we have to come, we're going to keep coming here till, like, this is going to sell.
Yes.
So the easier you make this, the less we're going to be in your hair.
Absolutely.
I had a guy one time, 65 years old, lived in the house for like 30 years. I shit you not, answered the fucking door stark naked. And I'm like, dude, can you put some pants on? oh, yeah. Junk hanging down, like open the door, butt naked, 70 years old. I'm just like, okay.
When I first started, I was doing an open house for my dad. And he always, because they were his clients, right? I didn't know some of the sellers. So he would always like make sure you're, in your best behavior. The seller might come through, like, and test you.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, in this one house, he's like, the owner's a real old guy. He's weird. He might come through. So this old guy comes into the house and he can't hear well. So I'm like, are you the seller? He just walks right past me. This is an open house. There's other people here. Mm-hmm. He goes into the bathroom, takes a huge shit, and literally stunk up the house and then left.
Was he the seller?
Yep. Just an old man that just didn't give a shit.
Again, I think the older I get, the less I give a shit, but I still care. So I wonder what it's like to be at that point where
it's a really nice.
You just don't care, right?
A funny little trick to prevent people from shitting in a house. When I was a kid, my dad used to represent this builder, Dan Palumbo. He built a bunch of houses in Lockley, and on all of his homes, he would never put the bathroom doors up so people wouldn't go to the bathroom in the house because you couldn't close the door.
Right. That's
A little trick if you're ever afraid of people shitting in your house, Tyler. Throwing a party, don't want people to shit, just take the doors off.
Not that we're going to continue to talk about pooping stories, but I was flipping a house. And being the owner of the house, my contractor, I get to the house and I'm walking down the hallway and I smell it, right? And as soon as I get to no doors, like you said, one of my contractor's guys sitting on a bucket taking a shit. Hey, how are you? Oh,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think I forget more of them than I remember out of sheer just like the deal's over, it's done, thank God, right? And kind of move on, you know? But being in this industry, like my client right now that I'm working with, she kind of said, well, what's wrong with people? And I said, it's people. Like people are difficult. There's all walks of life. There's different cultures. Just everybody views the way things negotiations go, the way things are expectations. It's all different with people, and constantly managing that stuff can be exhausting.
You know, what's wrong with people? So before cameras everywhere was normal, I had the seller who had cameras all inside the house, and he was watching every showing. Yeah. And I always thought that's kind of creepy.
Sure.
But then he messages me, he texts me, and he was like, what the fuck is this lady doing in my fridge? And I'm thinking, like, I open fridges sometimes because if it comes with the house,
sure,
you want to see.
Just want to look, yep.
He screenshot what legitimately, it was like if this was the shelf in the fridge, she was in the fridge.
That's bizarre.
In it. I don't like, what was she looking for in the back of the fridge that she had to go in the fridge?
I sold my buddy's mother's house. She's a grandmother, right? 70 years old. And same sort of thing, had the cameras. And she calls me and she is pissed, screaming at me, right? She's like, these guys, again, it was a spring. They walk across the lawn, don't take off their shoes. Then they go into the bathroom, take a leak, piss all over the toilet seat. And I call the agent and I'm like, listen, I just got yelled at, so now you're going to get yelled at. Like, completely unacceptable, right? Like, it was just...
Yeah. People have no control over people going into houses.
And that's tough, right? That's super tough. I'll tell you, and I try to warn all my clients before going into the house because of Ring cameras, just cameras all over the house. I've got them all over my house. I've got Ring cameras. Just be careful what you say, right? And I'll never forget.
Yeah, don't talk shit about the house when we're in there. There's probably...
And so I literally had just got done telling my clients, I gave them the spiel, right? On the way out of the house, I'm trying to lock the deadbolt. Well, the deadbolt, for whatever reason, was installed upside down. So I'm trying to put the key. I'm like, oh, it's upside down. So I'm literally crunched over, and I'm like, these motherfucking idiots just put the deadbolt upside down. And next to the deadbolt's a Ring camera. And I'm like, I shrunk, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, there's a camera. Like, I felt, and they were my friends, but it's still like, I was just waiting for that phone call of like, hey, what did you say in front of the Ring camera to the seller? Like, I didn't get that call, but I was like,
That's amazing.
I was literally staring into the Ring camera, motherfucking these people.
That is amazing.
Oops.
Oh, man. Should we talk shit about agents? There's so many bad agents. It's embarrassing. They don't know what they're doing. There's just nothing more.
Well, and I think that a lot of that's been talked about recently, right? Everybody's getting a bad name from, I see a lot in the Facebook groups, and you've commented on some of that stuff, not this specifically this topic. And I don't give a shit when anybody else does, but when it directly makes me look bad or you look bad, whatever, then it's a problem. But I think the barrier of entry to get your real estate license, a 75-hour course and a couple $100, it's not that difficult to pass the test.
Way too easy.
I think the status, like it's not an 80-20, like 20% of the agents do 80% of the deals. I think it's more than that, right?
Well, and there's such a high failure rate. You get people who come and go, but the craziest thing is the people who do a lot of business that don't know what they're doing.
Well, and I think that, again, you have these conversations with your client. If you're well connected,
right? The ceiling for how successful you could be.
You don't have to be a good salesperson to be a good real estate agent.
Right. You can be a successful agent, far more successful being a bad realtor, but being well connected and knowing a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's it's just an unfortunate fact. Good for them in a way, but it just makes it harder for everyone because they don't understand the transaction. They don't look out for their client's best interest. They don't even know what's in the paperwork that they have their clients sign. It's crazy to me.
Well, I'm not going to talk too much shit because I'm fairly new to the game.
You know what you're doing, though.
I know, but it's still, I'm trying to be friendly with most people.
They don't know who I'm talking about. Fuck them.